And welcome back as we continue our journey through the book of Acts. Today we continue our story in chapter 23. Yesterday what we talked about is that Paul was talking to the crowd that wanted to rip him to shreds. He saw that some of them were Pharisees and some of them were Sadducees that had different conflicting theologies of, whether the resurrection was real, whether angels actually existed, and so on. And so the Pharisees, who Paul identified with, said, hey, this guy didn't do anything wrong. He's one of us. And then, the Sadducees argued about him. And so the tribune took Paul away before he could be ripped to shreds. Like, that word picture in my mind right now is like, man, the violence that Paul actually stood in the midst of, it was crazy. So today we're only going to read one verse. We're going to be in verse 11. We're going to read that portion of scripture, pull out a timeless truth. Let's dive in. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, so you must testify also in Rome. Now, the time between Acts 21 and Acts 23, verse 11, the one we just read, spanned only 7 to 10 days. Yet so much had unfolded in such a short window. Paul went from entering the temple to being mobbed by zealous Jews, to nearly whipped and chained, and finally standing before the religious elite in Jerusalem. It's not hard to imagine Paul questioning himself in these kinds of moments, wondering if he could have spoken differently, or maybe he could have done something better. Yet in the middle of this whirlwind, the Lord himself stood by Paul and spoke words that must have renewed his strength. Jesus said, take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, so you must testify also in Rome. Notice what Jesus had affirmed. He didn't praise Paul's eloquence. He didn't defend his performance or reassure him of visible results. Instead, he commended Paul's faithfulness in testifying to the facts about him. The gospel did not need to be dressed up, sold, or made to be more appealing. It simply needed to be spoken. This encouragement shifted the focus away from outcomes onto obedience. For us, the lesson is the same. We may feel discouraged when results fall short or when people reject the message, but God is not measuring our effectiveness by applause or even by numbers, or for some of us, by likes on social media. He calls us to simply be faithful, to share the truth of Jesus, and to trust him with the results. So, church, I want to encourage you today that you too would question yourself right now. Are you afraid of sharing the gospel? Whether it might be with your kid, your spouse, your family member, your coworker, your neighbor, whoever. The idea, does that kind of make you nervous? Does it make your heart sink a little bit? Maybe the thoughts of, but I don't know all the Bible, or maybe the other excuse of, I'm afraid of what I'm going to look like, or what if they reject me, etc. Whatever thoughts like that come to your mind, I want to encourage you to surrender them. That you wouldn't fear man. You wouldn't fear what other people think of you. But you would rather just be able to be obedient and say, God, I just want to present the facts of who you are and what Jesus had done on the cross and how that has impacted me. Facts. You don't need to be like a used car salesman trying to butter them up and try to use your strategy and try to, make it even better than it actually is, because nothing is better than the gospel and the new life that Jesus has to offer for those of us that have been in bondage and enslaved to sin. The good news is already good news. You don't need to make it try to even make it look better. It's amazing by itself. So surrender those anxieties, surrender those fears, take a step of obedience, and stick to the facts. God bless.